Year 1 in this world. With just 1 point in strength, you could smash rocks with a punch. Year 2, more strength. Your body became immune to blades. You could even crush a cleaver into an iron ball barehanded. With these skills, you got a job as a town deputy and earned a steady living. Year 3, Valoria went to war with the Frostborn. Luckily, you had no family. The officials thought a loner like you was a flight risk or a rebel, so they didn't draft you. But sadly, your captain was taken. Before leaving, with teary eyes, he entrusted his 10-year-old daughter, Chloe, to you. That goodbye was forever. Year 4. With 4 strength points, you were nearly invincible among mortals. Bandits raided the town. Armed with just a blade, you casually killed over 20 of them. The old mayor saw you as his successor. The people hailed you as their guardian. The only catch was about one of the bandits you killed. His name was Seth. His brother, Victor, got lucky 2 years ago and joined a cultivator sect. They say cultivators never wait to take revenge. Good thing he just joined. He wouldn't be allowed down the mountain for decades. You did the math and sighed in relief. In 20 years, who knows who'd kill who? Year 11. 10 strength points let your punches create a vacuum. Feeling something off with your strength, you added a point to luck. That year, you found money on the street and caught fish with bare hooks. You were like the chosen one. Year 13 brought 2 pieces of news. The bad news came from the front lines. Chloe's father died in battle. The little girl cried her heart out. The good news? A master from the astral order came to recruit, claiming someone here had great luck. You thought it was you. But the test showed the lucky one was actually Chloe. Chloe refused to leave. She had already noticed your secret of eternal youth. Hoping to stay with you forever one day, she finally agreed to join the sect. Her only condition was to bring you along. But reality was harsh. The master checked your potential and gave a blunt verdict. A luckless mortal. You'd just be a burden. You were rejected. As compensation, he let you pick an item. You didn't want any divine weapons. You just asked for a manual that trades lifespan for power. The master looked at you like you were an idiot. But he still tossed you the stillness art and 2 awakening pills. The manual said, 300 years to form a core, 3,000 to become a master, 30,000 for a sage. 300,000 years to be invincible. Even better, it could burn triple your lifespan. For triple the training speed. It was tailor-made for you. Others needed 300 years, you only needed 100. Time flew. 10 years passed. The old mayor retired and you naturally took his place. By now, your stats were impressive: 20 strength, 6 luck. A flick of a leaf could pierce a rock 50 meters away. Boosted by high luck, the stillness art evolved into the greater stillness art. Your fame spread. Countless martial artists came to see you. Orphans seeking revenge, rejected geniuses, and crippled losers. All looking like typical main characters. Kneeling at your door to be your disciples. You rejected them all. Are you kidding? People with that kind of drama and hatred? Taking even one would ruin your life. They refused to leave and settled in town. The peaceful Oakhaven was turned into a bustling arena. One day, someone tested you by staging a gang fight on your turf. Sitting in a tea house, you didn't even stand up. You just dipped a finger in tea. With a flick, the water drop shot out like a cannonball. It blasted the troublemaker dozens of meters away, crushing half a street. Everyone was terrified. The crisis ended. Then, the mastermind came to apologize. It was someone from the vanguard of Valoria, begging you to save the country. You just asked, "Are there no other immortals in Valoria?" Because you remembered when you first arrived in this world. You saw an immortal descend from the sky and wipe out a city with one palm. That's exactly why you decided to lay low and grow stronger. How come there's no one left now? There is one, but he's been in deep seclusion, ignoring the world. Now, you're our only hope. You learned from him that this world is just the mortal realm. The true cultivation world is the spirit realm. Spirit realm cultivators face heavenly suppression if they come down, so few ever do. It all made sense. You were also a bit thrilled. It seemed this world didn't have many truly powerful figures. Just lay low for a few tens of thousands of years, and you'd be invincible. As for stepping up now, you firmly shook your head, then vanished into thin air. Fighting a war costs extra. Plus, it's too dangerous. You absolutely refused. A few days later, several gruesome mummies appeared in town out of nowhere. The same thing happened decades ago. You remembered Master Orion handled it back then. But this time, Master Orion never showed up. Instead, his corpse and a suicide note arrived. The note revealed the killer was a giant snake deep in the mountains, about to become a dragon, cultivated by draining human life force. Reading the note, you asked the crowd, "Have you heard the story of the Earthshaker?" That old man is me. That night, you went into the mountains alone. Facing a mountain shaped like a snake's tail, with 25 strength points, you slowly raised your right fist. Boom! The earth shattered. You smashed the entire mountain with one punch. Amidst the rubble, a giant snake, dozens of meters long, lay dying. It roared. I only needed 100 more people to become a dragon. You ruined my path. Aren't you afraid of heaven's wrath? Sorry, I'm not from this world. I'm not even sure if your heaven's rules apply to me. Then, another punch killed the snake demon on the spot. Surprisingly, thanks to your luck, you gained a wisp of dragon aura from the snake. You now had a ranged attack. Estimating your combat power, you were close to the late awakening stage. The next day, people found the mountain gone and suspected you did it. So, they gave you a nickname, Half Invincible. Why only half? Because they hadn't seen you fight a real immortal yet. Anyway, after that, Oakhaven welcomed another huge wave of martial artists admiring you. And because of them, Oakhaven was completely renamed the Arena. But none of this really mattered to you. You couldn't keep a low profile even if you tried. Another few decades of seclusion passed. The outside world changed. A new emperor ruled Valoria, and the border defenses fell. And the arena faced a real crisis. Victor, who joined the sect 30 years ago, had returned. Times change. The Victor of the past was now a true sect disciple. He came for revenge after learning his brother died in the arena. Especially after using force to intimidate the 4 great masters of the arena. He found out the town hid someone like you, who could shatter mountains and rivers like an immortal. Victor instantly knew you were likely the one who killed his brother. As for your strength, he wasn't afraid. He could shatter mountains and rivers too. So the 4 sects were forced to come to your place and wake you up. Your first battle with a real cultivator since your seclusion was about to begin. But hearing this, you didn't panic at all. After all, when a guest comes from afar, you gotta punch them first. If they survive, kick them out later. Especially since, after decades in this world, your strength points had reached 35. Your power was far beyond that of an ordinary cultivator. Facing the arrogant Victor floating in midair, you looked calm. Victor demanded from above, "Did you kill my useless brother?" Good riddance. With him dead, I can slaughter all you ants. With a perfectly good excuse. You're too bloodthirsty. Victor didn't waste words. He raised his hand and slashed with his sword. Under everyone's terrified gaze, you simply extended 2 fingers and casually caught the flying sword. Then, with a flick, the terrifying recoil blasted Victor hundreds of meters away. Is this a cultivator? You were a bit disappointed. This enraged Victor. He summoned his core artifact, turning it into a rain of swords, trying to shred you to pieces. Take this. You waved your hand. Golden dragon aura roared out, instantly shattering the swords. Let me show you what real cultivation is. You flicked a finger from afar. The air exploded and the ground shook. The shockwave instantly blasted Victor to dust. 1 finger to sever rivers and crush mountains. After witnessing you one-shot an immortal, all the martial artists felt a chill down their spines, not daring to breathe. You calmly looked at them. How much do you know about Victor's sect? Victor was from the Silverstream sect, 80 miles away. Before cultivating, he did many evil things but was still taken in. Their master is the only cultivator permanently stationed in Valoria. But rumor has it he's been in deep seclusion for a century. Hope that old geezer actually ascended. Anyone who taught trash like Victor can't be a good guy. After that, your life returned to normal. The 4 masters wanted to renovate your old hut, but you refused. 80 years passed. Old friends died. Only this hut kept traces of the past. Gotta keep some old things. Not long after, that old acquaintance from the vanguard came again. Once full of vigor, he was now old and white-haired. You sighed. Still fighting after all this time? The old emperor died. A child took the throne, and the court is in chaos. The first defense line fell. Thanks to Grand Princess Seraphina's military genius and frontline presence, we barely held the second line. Sir, Valoria has no generals left. We can't count on the sects either. Now, only you can save Valoria. A princess leading? Is Valoria out of men? Why is a woman fighting? Your hand, ready to refuse, stopped in midair. Seeing your cold look, the old man thought you still wouldn't go, so he gritted his teeth. Though a woman, she has the founder's spirit. She said if Valoria falls, The people will become livestock for the Frostborn. I didn't say I wouldn't go. Sir, you came from the mortals too. Can you bear to watch? It's just that Valoria's generals are all dead, leaving a woman to hold the line. It's quite absurd. If you help, sir, the war will end. All right, stop flattering me. Where is it? You put on your bamboo hat. The old man quickly said, Crimson Pass, 3,000 miles away. 3,000 miles? Ride your horse back. Before he finished, a fierce wind hit the old man, blinding him. When he opened his eyes, you were gone. Only 2 half-foot-deep footprints remained on the stone floor. 3,000 miles away at Crimson Pass, the setting sun was like blood. Valoria's last barrier was crumbling. Corpses littered the walls. Under a torn dragon flag, Grand Princess Seraphina, her silver armor dyed dark red, leaned on a broken sword, panting heavily. She was the royal family's last dignity. Outside the gates, dark clouds loomed. Tens of thousands of Frostborn troops didn't rush to attack, because in mid-air floated an old man in a blood-red robe. He stood on a giant bone artifact, holding a myriad soul banner. Countless vengeful spirits howled inside. He laughed sinisterly. Little beauty, I am an elder of the Bloodshadow sect. You have some potential. If you obediently become my disciple, I might spare a sliver of Valoria's royal bloodline. Otherwise, I'll slaughter the city and refine your souls today. Evil demon, Valoria only has princesses who die in battle, not royals who live on their knees. Have it your way then, the blood-robed elder snorted. He waved his banner, and instantly, a ghostly wind howled. Countless black spirits formed a giant ghost claw, slamming hard at the wall. This was the Nether Claw, a full power strike from a late awakening stage cultivator. A mortal army would instantly turn to sludge under this palm. Seraphina closed her eyes in despair. She never expected that, just one step away from holding the gates, a cultivator would personally intervene in a mortal war. Is Valoria doomed? At this critical moment, a sonic boom suddenly echoed from the sky. Everyone instinctively looked up. They saw a cyan streak of light crashing down like a meteor. Arriving in the blink of an eye, it smashed hard into the giant ghost palm in midair. No fancy spells, just pure, brutal kinetic impact. That nether claw, capable of slaughtering a city, the moment it touched the cyan light, was like tofu hitting a hammer. It shattered into a sky full of black mist. Then, the light continued unabated, crashing straight into the open ground before the wall. The earth shook violently like a magnitude 10 earthquake. The shockwave directly blew tens of thousands of Frostborn cavalry, men and horses alike, into the sky. For a moment, there was dead silence. Whether it was the fallen Frostborn army, or the defenders on the wall, everyone stared dumbfounded at the dust. The dust in the center slowly cleared. In the middle of a giant crater, you slowly stood up, dusted off your long robe, and adjusted the bamboo hat on your head. You muttered to yourself, "That was a bit far. Didn't quite control the landing." "Are you in charge here?" Seraphina froze for a long time before trembling. "I am. May I ask which immortal mountain you are from, master?" "I'm not a master." You turned around back to the wall and looked up in midair at the blood-robed elder, who was equally confused. "I'm just a mayor. Heard someone was causing trouble here. Came to mediate." The blood-robed elder scanned you with his divine sense. Your body had 0 spiritual energy. You were actually a mortal. Just a martial artist who practiced some physical skills? Though he didn't understand how the ghost claw broke. A cultivator's disdain for mortals was deep in his bones. The elder instantly flew into a rage out of humiliation. He formed a hand seal, summoned a crimson flying sword, and shot it as a bloody streak straight at your forehead. Seraphina quickly cried out in alarm. "Watch out, sir!" You stood there, motionless. Just as the sword was about to pierce your forehead, you raised your right hand and flicked a finger. That low-tier spirit sword, sharp enough to cut iron, was sent flying by a single finger. Not only that, the massive recoil instantly cracked the blade. Then, with a snap, it shattered into countless pieces. With his core artifact damaged, the blood-robed elder in the air spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with terror. "Impossible! What kind of body is that? Even a physical cultivator couldn't shatter a spirit weapon barehanded. Too brittle." Then you bent your knees slightly. The ground beneath you instantly caved in, leaving only an afterimage. You appeared 100 meters in the air the next second, face to face with the elder. This wasn't flying. You just jumped. The elder's pupils shrank. He barely had time to put up a mana shield. Spare me, friend. I'm from the Blood Shadow sect. Expressionless, you threw a punch. No technique, just absolute power. The punch compressed the air, forming an air cannon that slammed heavily into the shield. The shield shattered like paper. The blast pierced right through the elder's chest. And behind him, it blasted a kilometer-long vacuum trail in the clouds. The elder stared wide-eyed at the gaping hole in his chest. Even in death, he couldn't figure out what kind of power this was. Then gravity took over and you free fell, landing steadily on the city wall, right in front of Seraphina, seeing a godlike figure. Killed by your single punch, the Frostborn army fell into chaos. Generals and soldiers alike dropped their gear and fled in panic. Dead silence fell over Valoria's wall. All the soldiers looked at you in terror. You ignored them, just looking at the Grand Princess in front of you. Though covered in blood, her stunning beauty couldn't be hidden. Seraphina took a deep breath and bowed deeply to you, trembling. Thank you for saving my life, master, and for saving my country. May I know your name, sir? I'll repay you with the entire nation's wealth. You waved your hand. No need for repayment. I just came to ask a question. Please ask, sir. I'll tell you everything I know. You pointed at the blood-robed elder's corpse. This guy said he's from the Blood Shadow sect. Will anyone from there come to avenge him? The Blood Shadow sect is in the spirit realm's northern Shadow Peak Mountains. But there are rules between the spirit and mortal realms. If spirit realm cultivators force their way down, though there are ways, their power is heavily nerfed. Are you worried about their revenge, sir? You nodded, sighing in relief. That's pretty far. I kill the young, and the old come looking for trouble. I hate trouble the most. All right, if there's nothing else, let's never meet again, because you had no spirit root. Ordinary cultivators couldn't gauge your power. With that, you were about to leave, but Seraphina quickly stopped you. Sir, Valoria's throne is empty. If you're interested, you waved her off and pulled down your hat. I'm just a mayor. Don't tell anyone I did this today. Then you took a step and vanished into the night. After returning to Oakhaven, it was like nothing ever happened. You went back to your quiet life. Year 85. Your strength hit 40 points. You found a bottleneck in just boosting strength. Your body could barely handle such massive power. So you decided to boost vitality next year. Year 90. Valoria thrived again. Empress Seraphina ruled wisely and brought peace. She set up a blank monument deep in the palace. She paid respects there twice a month. Very few knew she was waiting for someone. Meanwhile, you were fishing by the town pond. In these 10 years, you added 5 vitality and 5 luck. Your body was as tough as a top-tier spirit weapon. Even a core formation master could barely scratch you now. But in year 95, you got a torn map from a martial artist. It showed a portal to the spirit realm. You glanced at it, shoved it in a book, and used it to prop up a table leg. Go to the spirit realm? Are you kidding? They say core formation masters are everywhere there, and nascent souls are a dime a dozen. In the mortal realm, you're an invincible boss. In the spirit realm, you'd be an ant easily crushed. Not going. Never. Little did you know, right now, your physical body alone could punch a nascent soul to death. Year 100. Old folks in Oakhaven passed away one after another. You became the oldest in town, but you still looked 20. To avoid shocking people, you used a disguise, drawing a mustache to look middle-aged. One day, a richly dressed beauty came to town. You instantly recognized her as Empress Seraphina. 20 years had passed, leaving traces of time on her face. She knew you hated trouble, so she hadn't looked for you in 20 years. But now she had stepped down. Leaving the throne, she came here alone. Sir, may I have a cup of tea? Come in. Just brewed. She didn't mention you saving the country. You didn't mention your earth-shattering punch. You two were like old friends, chatting about the harvest and the neighbor's cat. At this moment, she wasn't the mighty Empress, and you weren't pretending to be a master. Right now, you were just 2 crossing stars in the mortal world. Seraphina then settled in town. She bought a small yard next door, gardening daily, occasionally dropping by for meals. She never asked about your cultivation, and you tacitly avoided court politics. The townsfolk joked that the old mayor finally found love, ready to spend the rest of his life here. You just smiled, neither explaining nor denying. Because you knew a mortal's life was too short. Year 115. In these 15 years, your strength hit 50, vitality 20. Your body density was terrifyingly high. Now, you had to control your steps while walking. That same year, on a snowy winter day, the yard next door was unusually quiet. You pushed the door open. You saw the silver-haired Serafina lying in a rocking chair, covered in a thick fox fur coat. It was the one she wore when she first met you. Now it looked a bit worn. She looked at you, a girlish spark of joy in her cloudy eyes. Sir, 15 years of tea. I'm content. Trembling, she took out a warm jade pendant. This is the royal family's highest level key. Back then, I didn't just defend the borders. I also knew you hated trouble. As long as Valoria stands, no fools will bother Oakhaven. Now I'm leaving. I'm blessed to have spent my last days with you. I'm content. Amidst the falling snow, the legendary Empress passed away with a smile. You stood in the snow, motionless for a long time. Finally, you poured a cup of hot tea at her grave. Next life, don't be born royal and don't meet an immortal. Find someone you love and live a full life. Year 120. You felt an inexplicable palpitation again. Not from fear, but because this world seemed to reject you. You were too strong. Just breathing disrupted the spiritual energy around you. You had to hide your aura even more carefully. Sitting all day at the broken table propped up by the spirit realm map, spacing out. Until one day the sky cracked. Literally cracked. The sky above Oakhaven shattered like a mirror. A giant black vortex appeared. Worse, you felt the worlds were driving you out. This low-level map couldn't hold a max-level character like you. Beams of guiding light fell from the sky. It was forced ascension. Whether you liked it or not, this world was kicking you out. Looks like it's time to lay low somewhere else. You sighed and looked back at Oakhaven. It held 120 years of your memories. You went inside and pulled the dusty map from under the table leg. You also took Serafina's jade pendant. Finally, you shouldered a small bundle of your belongings. You shouted into the void. Stop rushing me. I'm going. You stepped into the air, following the light straight into the giant rift. Just as you were about to leave this world, you looked back at Oakhaven and flicked a finger. A soft golden light enveloped the entire town. It was karma forged with 5 luck points. To protect them with good weather for a century. Consider it my final rent payment. With a flash, you completely vanished from the mortal realm. The people of Oakhaven knelt and bowed, tears streaming down their faces. And on the town's stone steel, a new line appeared. An immortal was here. His name is Ethan. The scenery before your eyes kept shifting. When you opened your eyes again, the spiritual energy around you was so thick it was almost suffocating. This was the spirit realm, a holy land for cultivators and a brutal battlefield. You were standing on a giant ascension platform, surrounded by cultivators in various robes. But when they saw you, they were all dumbfounded. An ascender from the mortal realm? Why does he look so ordinary with 0 mana? You pretended to be nervous, shrinking your neck, and asked quietly, excuse me, brothers, which way to the Blood Shadow sect? Hearing your question, the cultivators looked at each other. Then, they burst into roaring laughter. Blood Shadow sect? That's a top demonic sect in the northern Shadow Peak Mountains. A mere mortal who hasn't even reached the chi refining stage? Ha ha ha, that's a stupid way to die. Probably offended a Blood Shadow envoy in the lower realm. Just an unlucky bastard dragged up here by force. You ignored their mockery and pulled a gold ingot from your bundle. You handed it to the fattest cultivator who was laughing the hardest. Bro, can you just point me in the right direction? Seeing mortal gold, the fat cultivator sneered in disdain, but he still casually pointed for you. Due north, 300,000 miles, the place with the heaviest dark clouds and death aura. But I'd advise against it. They're famous for refining living souls. With your soft skin, you won't even leave a whole corpse. You nodded seriously and cupped your fists in thanks. Thanks for the tip, bro. I'm a good listener. I'll be right back after I'm done. With that, you turned north and bent your knees slightly. The next second, the ascension platform, made of eternal ice stone, said to be unshakable even by soul formation masters, shattered violently beneath your feet. The terrifying recoil kicked up a Category 18 hurricane. By the time they crawled up covered in dirt, you were long gone, leaving only a massive crater hundreds of feet deep. And a sonic boom in the sky, torn open by pure physical force. Dead silence. The fat cultivator gulped, staring at the gold ingot in his hand, his legs shaking wildly. What kind of physical monster is he? 300,000 miles. Even for a nascent soul master in the spirit realm, it would take days of flying on a sword. But for you, it was just a few more jumps. Half an hour later, the northern Shadow Peak Mountains, shrouded in eternal black mist and ghostly aura. Inside the Blood Shadow Sect's main hall, the current master, Patriarch Bloodbane, was furious. Trash. You're all trash. 80 years. Still haven't found that damn mayor from the lower realm? Back then, he shattered the Ninth Elder's core artifact and body with one punch, ruining all our plans in the lower realm. If we don't avenge this, where is our sect's pride? The kneeling elders stayed dead silent. The first elder braced himself and said, "Calm down, master. The mortal realm suppression is too strong. Any disciple we send past the awakening stage gets killed by lightning tribulation. We just can't track him down." Bloodbane's eyes burned with dark fire. Just as he was about to explode, suddenly, a blinding cyan light with apocalyptic force crashed straight into the white jade plaza outside the hall. The entire Shadow Peak Mountains shook violently. Countless buildings collapsed in the shockwave. Screams echoed everywhere. Bloodbane turned pale and rushed out with the elders. In the center of the plaza, a giant crater had appeared. Amidst the dust, a young man wearing an old bamboo hat and a faded long robe was casually dusting himself off. Bloodbane scanned him with his divine sense and panicked. 0 mana? How could he be immortal? Who are you? Why destroy our sect's gate? You adjusted your hat, looked up, and calmly scanned the crowd. I'm the mayor of Oakhaven. Hearing this, dead silence fell. Bloodbane's eyes widened. It's you, that physical brute from the lower realm. You nodded. Heard you've been looking for me for 80 years. I hate trouble, and I don't like being targeted. So on my first day up here, I dropped by. To solve the trouble. Bloodbane laughed out of pure rage, his eyes full of killing intent. You ignored the path to heaven and barged right into hell. I couldn't touch you in the lower realm. But here, I am a soul formation master. Elders, hear my command. Form the soul-devouring ghost array. I said, form the soul-devouring ghost array. Form the array now. Tear him apart and refine his soul. Before he finished, dozens of nascent soul elders formed hand seals. The sky filled with black mist, turning into billions of evil ghosts, blotting out the sun as they rushed at you, facing a soul formation master and the entire sex attack. You didn't even try to dodge. You just took a deep breath, then slowly raised your right hand and clenched your fist. 50 strength points, 11 luck points, greater stillness art, vacuum burst. You threw a punch. No flashy light, no magical ripples, just pure, ultimate physical destruction. The air was compressed to the limit by an unbelievable force in an instant. Then, a violent explosion occurred. Boom! A visible white shockwave swept forward in a fan shape. The soul-devouring ghost array shattered. The sky full of ghosts was blasted into nothingness. Those nascent soul elders didn't even have time to scream. Their bodies, caught in the furious blast, turned into a rain of blood. The shockwave didn't stop, heading straight for Bloodbane. After one punch, the Blood Shadow Sect's main peak was gone, replaced by a bottomless canyon, hundreds of miles long. You turned around and walked back down the mountain. From ascending to wiping out a sect, it only took you an hour. Now, the karma from the lower realm was completely severed. No one would come looking for trouble anymore. You stroked your chin, planning your next steps. The spiritual energy here is so thick. The stillness art should be twice as effective. I'll find a nice, quiet mortal town first, and lay low for another 10,000 years. Once all my stats hit 10,000, you smiled slightly and pulled down your hat. I should be truly invincible by then. The chaos at the Ascension platform took only half a day to spread across 17 nearby counties. The news of the Blood Shadow Sect's destruction, 3 days later, swept across the northern spirit realm like a plague. But no one connected the two events, because no one believed that a mortal who just ascended from the mortal realm could, in just 1 hour, wipe out a 3,000-year-old demonic sect. You were very satisfied with this. Being unnoticed was the best outcome. After leaving the Shadow Peak Mountains, you purposely slowed down. After all, this was the spirit realm, not the mortal realm. You could do whatever you wanted down there. Here, you decided to keep a low profile first. You headed south, sticking to mortal settlements. 7 days later, at a small place called Riverwood, you stopped. It had mountains, water, and thin spiritual energy. Far from any major sects. The town was full of hunters, herb gatherers, and merchants. Most importantly, it was small enough to avoid trouble. You spent 2 ounces of silver sand to buy an old house with a yard, then hung Seraphina's jade pendant by your bed, and used that torn map to prop up a table leg again. You found that no matter where you went, this thing was perfect for propping up tables. Year 1 after ascending, you didn't add strength. You added a point to mana. The next moment, the greater stillness art flowing slowly inside you. Ignited like a spark. The spirit realm's energy was far denser than the mortal realms. For the first time, you clearly felt a wisp of true spiritual essence forming inside you. It was weak. So weak that even a chi refining novice would scoff at it. But to you, it meant everything. Because it meant you were no longer just a mayor who threw punches. You were now a mayor who threw punches and used magic. Year 2, you added another mana point. Soaked in the spirit realm's energy, the greater stillness art evolved again. It was no longer just stillness. It became a brand new art. You named it the Immortal Titan art. A badass name for a badass art. It didn't just efficiently turn lifespan into power. It also compressed your vitality, mana, and divine sense together. Simply put, it made laying low even easier. Year 3, you tried spreading your divine sense. As soon as it unfolded, all of Riverwood was like the palm of your hand. Everything reflected clearly in your mind. You saw the tofu-selling widow on the east side, sneaking pickles to the blacksmith next door. You saw the gambler on the west street, digging up his wife's hidden stash. You also saw the old mayor in the town hall's backyard, sighing heavily over the ledgers. You quietly pulled back your divine sense. Knowing too much is a hassle. Sadly, trouble doesn't stay away just because you hate it. Half a month later, a Tier 3 wolf demon appeared outside Riverwood. The old mayor and a dozen deputies stood at the gate, legs shaking. Standing behind the crowd, you didn't want to step in. But the wolf demon just had to pick your yard wall, biting half of it off. You paused for 2 seconds, walked up, and punched its head off. The whole town was stunned. The old mayor even dropped to his knees. You helped him up, earnestly explaining you were just a passing stranger. But early the next morning, the townsfolk brought a plaque and blocked your door. The plaque read in gold, "Please be our mayor." Standing at the door, looking at that all-too-familiar plaque, you were speechless. You ascended to the spirit realm to lay low somewhere new. Yet here you were, a mayor again. You refused 3 times. They knelt for 3 days. Finally, you sighed and took the job. Anyway, you had experience running a town. So, your first official identity in the spirit realm became the new mayor of Riverwood. When the news spread, nearby towns were shocked. Because no one had ever seen a mortal mayor one-shot a Tier 3 wolf demon. Soon, Riverwood became famous. And fame quickly brought new trouble. Weirdos started showing up in town. A down-and-out boy carrying a giant sword. A girl hunted by enemies, carrying a blood feud. And a crippled youth in black, shouting about his comeback. Looking at their typical main character faces, your eye twitched. You immediately put up a new sign at the town entrance. It read, "No disciples accepted here. No sworn brothers. No broken engagements. No face slapping." Everyone was confused. Only you knew how crucial this rule was. Sadly, rules rarely work on main characters. Year 5 in the spirit realm. A woman in white came to Riverwood. As she entered, light snow fell. Everyone on the street stared, because she was too beautiful and too cold. Behind her were 8 powerful guardians. The martial artists instantly recognized her. Chloe, the saintess of the astral order. You were chopping wood in the yard. Hearing that name, your axe paused for the first time. Soon a gentle knock came. A familiar yet strange voice spoke. "Sir, may I have a cup of tea?" You stood in silence for a long time, then finally opened the door. Chloe looked the same, but her eyes were much deeper now. She looked at you, her eyes slightly red. "I've looked for you for over a century." You looked at her, then at her 8 guardians. "It's fine that you came, but why bring a crowd?" Chloe said softly, "I didn't want to." They insisted on following. You frowned. That sounded like trouble. You let her in. The 8 guardians tried to follow. You just glanced at them, and the door slammed shut on its own. The 8 turned pale. They realized they didn't even have the courage to push the door. In the yard, Chloe sat at the stone table watching you brew tea. She didn't ask how you'd been, and you didn't ask how she made it this far from the mortal realm. Because you both knew the past century wasn't easy. After the tea was ready, holding her cup, Chloe whispered, "You haven't changed, sir." "I have. I used to only fear mortal realm trouble. Now, I fear spirit realm trouble too. Chloe couldn't help but smile. It looked just like back then, like the 10-year-old girl crying and grabbing your sleeve. But the smile faded quickly, replaced by exhaustion. Sir, I came to ask you to save me. The Astral Order is in trouble. The master who took me died 30 years ago. The new master colluded with the Oracle Order in the Midlands. They want to use my luck to open an ancient emperor's tomb. If I refuse, everyone in the Astral Order will die. You stayed silent for a moment, then sighed. I knew it. Main character tropes never bring anything good. Do you regret opening the door, sir? A little, but not much. Chloe looked down, but her lips curled up slightly. She knew what he meant. He didn't regret it. Just then, a cold shout came from outside. Saintess, the master orders your immediate return. Keep messing with this nobody mortal, and we won't hold back. Humph. Rushing us before we even finish our tea. They've been waiting all along. You nodded and set down your cup. When she's around, trouble is never far behind. Sure enough, at noon on the third day, people from the Oracle Order arrived. A middle-aged man in black robes came. He didn't attack right away, because he was more cautious than those Astral Order elders. Standing outside the town, 3 miles away, he cupped his fists at you. I'm Silas, a deacon of the Oracle Order. By the Master's decree, I'm here to invite Ethan for a chat. I don't like chatting. Do you know Chloe carries heavenly luck? It's the key to an ancient tomb. That's her luck, not yours. Are you trying to make an enemy of the Oracle Order? I didn't want to, but since you came to my door to say that, I guess I am now. Silence fell outside the town. Silas clearly didn't expect you to be so blunt. After a long while, he suddenly laughed. Arrogant. The Oracle Order has ruled the Midlands for 70 millennia. We have countless top masters. Even with your skills, can you really defy fate? Hearing this, you looked up at the sky. Back in the mortal realm, someone said something similar to me. They all died. Silas's smile slowly vanished. Next, 3 bronze fate coins flew from his sleeve. They grew in the wind, forming an array that covered the whole town. Heavenly secrets flowed and fate lines wove across it. The Oracle Order's signature move, stealing luck and altering fate. The sky above Riverwood instantly darkened. The townsfolk felt dazed, as if their souls were being drained. Chloe stood up and walked to your side. She whispered, Careful, sir. This is true fate. You nodded, then reached out and grabbed a fate line in midair. Silas's pupils shrank. That line was supposed to be intangible, only guided by divine sense. But now you were pulling it like a rope, dragging it right out of the void. This flimsy thing is fate? You took a look and found it a bit brittle. So you pulled hard. Snap. The entire array shattered on the spot. Silas was struck as if by lightning. He violently spat out a mouthful of blood. Impossible. How can you touch the threads of fate barehanded? You shook your fingers, finding it somewhat interesting. So that's how you use luck and fate. Noted. Silas felt a chill down his spine, because he suddenly realized you weren't just taking his spell head-on. You were learning it on the fly. Someone touching fate magic for the first time, snapping a fate line barehanded after just one look. Monster wasn't enough to describe this. This was an anomaly, a true anomaly. He didn't dare stay. He turned to cast an escape spell and flee. You sat there without getting up. You just flicked a finger. An invisible force shot across the 3-mile sky. Silas, his soul, his fate compass, and his artifacts all blew up into a mist in midair. Wiped out completely. After that day, Riverwood became completely quiet. No one dared to come near. Even passing birds deliberately flew around it. You finally got some long-lost peace. But you knew this peace wouldn't last long, because Silas had sent the news back to the Midlands before he died. Sure enough, half a month later, 3 grand diviners of the Oracle Order set up altars at once. They wanted to divine your origins, to divine your fate, to divine the karma between you and Chloe. But the first Grandmaster just saw a blank void, and instantly bled from all 7 orifices. The second Grandmaster didn't even get to say outer realm before his body exploded into shattered bones. The third had it worst. He forced his divination all the way to Oakhaven. He saw a stone stele with a few words. An immortal was here, Ethan. Then he went mad. The entire Oracle Order was in an uproar. The master personally issued an order. Hear this, Ethan is not to be divined, provoked, or approached. Violators will be expelled from the order. Humph. At least one of them is smart. Finally breathing a sigh of relief, Chloe sat across from you, watching you slowly refill the teapot. You glanced at the sunset outside. Chloe whispered, "Sir, what's your plan now?" "I'll stay put and boost my stats for a few more years. Once I'm so strong no one can hurt me, I'll feel safer." "What about me?" You looked up at her. "Stay if you want. But let's be clear, I don't take disciples, nor saintesses." Chloe blinked. "Then what do you take?" You thought for a moment. Taking in a freeloader wouldn't be so bad. Chloe froze for a second, then chuckled softly. It was her most relaxed smile since coming to the spirit realm. Soon, a new rumor spread in Riverwood. "Did you hear? That girl in white with the mayor is a big shot. But around the mayor, she's like a quiet little wife. TSK, TSK. The mayor really has his ways." Hearing this, you almost spat out your tea. You wanted to explain, but then decided it wasn't worth the effort. Mortals' mouths are never idle anyway. Better to let them guess you're a late bloomer in love than some ancient physical monster. At least that sounds less scary. Your strength reached 55 points. Vitality reached 25 and mana reached 5. Your divine sense now covered 10,000 miles. And your body reached a level even you couldn't explain. That night, you were practicing punches in the yard. You casually threw a punch at the sky. And 10,000 miles away, you shattered a passing meteor. Looking at the explosion in the sky, you paused in thought. Oops, am I getting ridiculously strong again? Chloe stood on the porch watching you quietly. "Sir, you're kind of asking for a beating." You thought about it seriously. "Am I? I'll try to say it less then." But your peace didn't last long. Bigger news spread from the Midlands across the spirit realm. The ancient emperor's tomb appeared early, and one of the keys was Chloe's heavenly luck. Meanwhile, the Oracle Order, the Wildlands, Demon Ridge, and the Apex Sword Sect, the 4 factions issued a joint decree. Report Chloe and Ethan's whereabouts. Get a holy artifact. Capture them. Get a whole continent. The entire spirit realm was on the move. You looked at the bounty poster at the town gate. You stayed silent for a long time, then looked back at Chloe. "Sigh. I told you. Main character tropes are a lifelong hassle." Chloe bit her lip. "What do we do now?" You tore down the poster and crumpled it up. You tossed it into a fire pit. The firelight reflected on your hat and your overly calm face. "What do we do? Don't they want to find us?" "Then let's save them the trouble." You slowly stood up and dusted off your sleeves. You left just like that. She quickly followed. You took a step, blasting a crater in the ground. Chloe's vision blurred as the scenery rushed backward. The Midlands was huge. To spirit realm cultivators, it was too big to cross in a lifetime. To you, it was just a few more jumps. Half an hour later, you and Chloe stood outside the Oracle Order's gate. Mountains clustered here, and star trails hung in the sky. 99 divination platforms floated above the clouds. It truly looked like an immortal realm. The gate was already open. No arrays, no ambushes, no killing intent. Only a white-haired old man stood alone, waiting for you. Chloe glanced at him and whispered, "That's the master of the Oracle Order." You looked at the old man. He was much better than Silas. At least he didn't ask for a chat right away. Master Thorn bowed deeply to you. "Ethan, my friend. I've been waiting for a long time." You glanced at him. "Aren't you guys the best at divining? Since you knew I was coming, why didn't you run?" Master Thorn smiled bitterly. "Because I divined all night and only found out one thing. No matter how fast I run, I can't outrun your fist." You asked directly, "Who proposed the bounty?" Master Thorn stayed silent for a moment, then told the truth. "The Wildlands proposed it." Demon Ridge agreed. The Apex Sword Sect nodded. The Oracle Order was forced to join. Because everyone thinks Miss Chloe is the key to the tomb. But actually, Master Thorn looked up at you. His eyes were complex. "Miss Chloe is one of the keys. But the one who really made the tomb appear early isn't her. It's you." Chloe's expression changed slightly. You weren't very surprised. "Go on." Master Thorn took a deep breath. "That ancient tomb doesn't bury an emperor. It buries an immortal who fell from the outer realm. Legend says the immortal polluted the entire burial sea before dying. He was later suppressed by the spirit realm's ancient sages. They just disguised it as an emperor's tomb to lure people. Now the seal is loosening. But I think what they'll get isn't fortune, but trouble. Hearing the word trouble, you immediately got serious. When does the seal open? Tonight at midnight, at the Void Gate in the Burial Sea. You nodded. Master Thorn hesitated for a moment. Ethan, many people are going tonight. The Lord of the Wildlands, the Master of Demon Ridge, the head of the Apex Sword Sect. Even a few old monsters who've been in seclusion for years. They'll all be there. They might not be your match. But the thing behind the Void Gate, I'm afraid even they don't know what it is. It's fine. I'm not afraid of people. I'm just afraid of things. After leaving the Oracle Order, you didn't stop. The Burial Sea was in the far east of the Midlands, dark all year round. When you arrived, night had just fallen. The entire sea was as dead silent as a giant coffin. And in the middle of the sea floated a pitch-black ancient gate. The gate was 10,000 feet high, covered in ancient runes no one could read anymore. The 4 factions had arrived. To the east was the Oracle Order, but they all stood very far away, clearly acting like they were just there to watch the show. To the west was the Wildlands, golden flags and holy light filling the sky. To the south was the Apex Sword Sect. Sword aura crossed the sky. Even the seawater was cut into hundreds of rifts. To the north was Demon Ridge. Various great demons occupied the sky. Their fierce aura blocked the moon. Besides them, there were countless rogue old monsters. Demonic giants hid in the dark. Everyone was waiting for the gate to open at midnight. As soon as you and Chloe appeared, the entire sea instantly fell quiet. Everyone's eyes fell on you. Ethan is here. He actually dared to come. A monster who ascended from the mortal realm. Let's see how long he can stay arrogant today. The sea breeze was cold, but you just looked down at the churning black water beneath your feet. The feng shui here is bad. Chloe whispered. Do you mean them, sir? You shook your head. I mean the thing behind the gate. Just then, a golden light rose from the Wildlands camp. A middle-aged man in a golden robe stepped into the air. His aura was like the midday sun. Gideon of the Wildlands. Ethan, hand over Chloe. I can pretend this never happened. You looked up at him. Dead silence fell over the crowd. Who do you think you are? Gideon's forehead veins bulged in rage. Ethan, are you truly making an enemy of the world? You thought about it seriously. I just wanted to chat with you guys. But your tone makes me not want to anymore. Humph. Gideon laughed out of pure rage. Fine. Then let me see for myself today just how capable an ascender from the mortal realm is. He raised his hand. A massive ancient cauldron slowly rose from the void. As it appeared, the spiritual energy for 10,000 miles collapsed. Even the sea level was crushed down dozens of feet. Someone gasped, the Titan Cauldron. The holy artifact of the Wildlands. The Titan Cauldron crashed down. In that instant, felt like half the sky collapsed. You stood there, neither dodging nor retreating. You just raised your right hand and caught the giant cauldron single-handedly. Boom! A 1,000-foot wave exploded from the sea. But your feet didn't sink a single inch. All the cultivators were dumbfounded. Gideon's face changed drastically. Impossible! You weighed the cauldron in your hand and nodded. Pretty solid. The next moment, you squeezed your fingers slightly. The Titan Cauldron let out a piercing wail. On its body, cracks spread rapidly one after another. Gideon spat out a mouthful of blood. He roared in absolute terror. Stop! Too late. With a loud crack, you crushed the Titan Cauldron to pieces on the spot. Countless fragments fell into the sea. Gideon was completely stunned. You casually tossed the largest handle into your bundle. I'll keep this. Good for boiling water later. Before the crowd could recover from the shock, a sword hum suddenly rang out from the Apex Sword Sect. An old man in gray arrived, riding on 10,000 swords. Hair bristling, killing intent piercing the sky. Brat! How dare you insult a holy artifact? I, Vance of the Apex Sword Sect, sentence you to death. Looking at the overwhelming swords, you frowned slightly. Why are you sword cultivators all so aggressive? Vance didn't waste words. He pressed his hand down. 100,000 swords rained down like a storm. The night sky instantly lit up like day. You stood there, slowly extended 2 fingers, and gently pinched forward. Those 100,000 swords hit an invisible wall, stopping dead in midair. The next moment, you clenched your fist. The river of swords violently contracted. 100,000 swords in the air were forcefully crushed into a giant iron ball. Vance's eyes instantly turned red. My swords! You flicked a finger. The sword ball shot back like a meteor. Vance, along with 36 sword cultivators behind him, were smashed into a bloody mist on the spot. The sword cultivator camp fell dead silent. Just then, the pitch-black ancient gate in the sea suddenly lit up. Chloe turned pale. Sir, it's looking at you. You felt it too. It wasn't an illusion. The thing behind the gate was really looking at you. The next moment, the gate shook violently. A massive black chain snapped from the crack. Everyone's face changed. Master Thorn cried out from afar. Oh no, the gate isn't opening. The thing inside is coming out. The gate opened. A pale hand slowly reached out from behind it. The hand wasn't big. It even looked ordinary. But the moment it appeared, the spiritual energy within 100,000 miles died. Truly died. No longer flowing, no longer breathing, no longer responding to any spells. A grandmaster screamed in terror. A fallen immortal! It's a fallen immortal! The next second, the hand pressed down gently. That grandmaster, along with hundreds of cultivators around him, silently turned to ash. Total chaos erupted. The once arrogant faction leaders now retreated like madmen. Some used blood escape spells. Some burned their lifespan. Some even knelt and kowtowed on the spot. But it was useless. The thing in the gate was stepping out bit by bit. It was a figure in white, wrapped in broken chains. He had no eyes. His face was just a smooth, pale blank. But the moment he looked up, everyone felt they were seen. First time I've seen something that looks like more trouble than me. The fallen immortal slowly raised his hand and pointed at you from afar. In an instant, an unprecedented sense of crisis truly fell upon you for the first time. The space beneath your feet began to collapse. Your blood flowed backward. Even the immortal titan art inside you roared like never before. You looked down at your arm. A tiny bloody cut had actually split open on it. Humph. Since I came to the spirit realm, you're the first to break my skin. The fallen immortal naturally didn't reply. He just took a step forward. With this step, the burial sea instantly evaporated. Layers of mist rose from the sea. Countless cultivators didn't even have time to scream before vanishing into nothingness in the white light. The fallen immortal completely stepped out of the gate. The whole world began to crack. A giant black rift even appeared in the sky, as if the entire spirit realm was about to be torn apart by it. You looked up at the rift, finally frowning, because you suddenly realized, if this thing kept wreaking havoc, let alone laying low, you might not even find a peaceful place to be a mayor. Thinking of this, you sighed deeply. I just came out to reason with them. Why am I cleaning up messes again? Chloe looked at you and suddenly whispered, Sir, if you can't win this time, just leave first. Nonsense. You looked back at her. My home is still in Riverwood. The map is still propping up the table leg. With that, you took a step forward. At this moment, you no longer suppressed your vitality, nor your divine sense, and certainly not that body of yours, which had grown so strong it defied logic. Boom! Your aura fully unfolded in the spirit realm for the first time. Mountains and seas within 100,000 miles resonated. Countless fleeing cultivators were simultaneously crushed to their knees by this ultimate pure life pressure. The broken chains on him flew up at once, turning into 9 apocalyptic black dragons, charging to strangle you. You grabbed the first one and backhanded it like a whip. The second black dragon was whipped to pieces. You stomped the third one in half. The fourth wrapped around your waist, but only managed to tighten halfway before your abs forcefully shattered it. The spectating cultivators in the distance felt their scalps tingle. Shattering immortal chains directly? What the hell kind of monster is this? The fallen immortal finally stopped fighting head-on. He reached up and grabbed at the sky. The rift in the sky suddenly expanded. Countless eerie black shadows reached out from deep within the rift, as if trying to use this chance to invade the spirit realm. Master Thorn was terrified. He's opening the realm gate. He's bringing in the outer realm's corruption. Hearing outer realm, you paused slightly, then you suddenly remembered. The 2 words the Oracle Order diviners failed to finish before the backlash. So this is the outer realm. The fallen immortal clearly noticed your hesitation. He flashed and instantly appeared in front of Chloe, reaching for her forehead. Chloe's luck erupted automatically, forming countless platinum chains to block him. But it was too weak against an immortal. Your eyes instantly turned cold. You're dead. The next moment, you vanished. No, not vanished. You were just too fast. So fast that eyes became useless. When you reappeared, you were standing behind the immortal, with your right hand plunged into his chest. The world fell silent again. The fallen immortal slowly looked down at the hand piercing his chest. You were crushing a pitch-black sphere. It wasn't a heart of flesh, but a beating core of death. For the first time, your hand felt hot, burned by a higher-level power. But you didn't hesitate at all. You clenched your fist hard. Bang! The black sphere exploded on the spot. The immortal shuddered, as if drained of everything. The immortal light supporting him quickly faded. But he didn't die immediately. His faceless visage slowly cracked open. Like a mouth. The next moment, an extremely hoarse voice echoed directly in your mind. So it's you. Your pupils shrank. You know me? No. You are someone like him. Then what? His voice was breaking. His body began to stiffen completely. You frowned and pressed. Then what? The immortal fell silent for a second, leaving a final warning. Don't go up. With that, he completely turned into a sky full of gray light. The realm gate he forced open also slowly closed at the same time. The world finally regained its color. Everyone who survived stared at you blankly. No cheers, no applause, only an instinctive awe and fear. Humph! Because they saw with their own eyes a man claiming to be a mayor rip out a fallen immortal's heart barehanded. You stood there in silence for a long time. Chloe walked up to you and looked at you carefully. Sir, are you okay? You looked down at the gray residue on your palm. No. Chloe's heart tightened. Are you hurt badly? You shook your head. It's not an injury. The trouble just got bigger. Chloe froze. At a time like this, you were still thinking about that? Just then, deep inside the fully opened ancient gate, a faint light suddenly flickered. Scanning with your divine sense, your expression changed slightly. There's something else inside. Chloe followed your gaze. Are we going in? You paused for 2 seconds. You didn't want to, but the immortal's dying words were hard to ignore, especially the part about someone like him. Especially that exact phrase. So you nodded. Let's take a look. Then we leave. You stepped into the gate. Chloe followed closely. The world behind the gate wasn't a tomb. It was a ruined, gray wasteland. No spiritual energy here. No trace of time flowing either. Only a broken stone hall stood alone in the center. A broken stele was planted at the entrance. It had no spirit realm text or ancient runes, but characters you knew all too well. Simplified Chinese. Standing before the stele, you were truly stunned for the first time. Chloe couldn't read them, so she asked softly, Sir, what does it say? Staring at the stele, you read it word by word. Latecomer. If you're reading this, it means I failed. I came from elsewhere just like you. And like you, I grew stronger with time. The upper realm isn't a paradise. It's a hunting ground. Ascension is just sending grown fish into a bigger net. If you're reading this, I couldn't break through that net. Don't rush up. At least not until you can shatter the sky with one punch. I left a life-sharing seal inside. It grants immortality to one person. Consider it a bit of mortal legacy for the latecomer. You stayed silent for a long time. Chloe stood by your side, not disturbing you. She couldn't read the text, but she could read your eyes. It wasn't fear. It was the calm of finally seeing a signpost. Deep in the hall, a small bronze seal indeed hovered. It had no spiritual energy, only an aura sharing your origin. The moment you grabbed it, you understood its purpose. Couldn't make someone grow infinitely like you, but it could let someone share your endless years. You instinctively looked at Chloe. Her ears turned slightly red under your gaze, but she still asked softly, Sir, what did it say? You thought for a moment. It said, don't go up for now. Chloe nodded. Then we won't. She answered so fast, as if it required no thought at all. You suddenly smiled. This trip was supposed to solve trouble. But at the end of the trouble, someone just like you left a light for you. Before leaving the gate, you looked back at the gray wasteland and threw a punch. The entire sealed land, along with the gate, shattered, sinking completely into nothingness. You didn't want to gamble. If that immortal corpse could come out once, it could come out again. Things that ruin your peaceful days are better buried forever. Back at the burial sea, the faction leaders were still kneeling, not daring to look up. You didn't waste words, leaving just one sentence. From today on, whoever targets Chloe or Riverwood, I'll pay their sect a visit. No one dared to answer. But everyone knew this was heavier than any oath. After that day, the Oracle Order withdrew the bounty. The Wildlands closed its doors for a century. The Apex Sword Sect made Ethan a taboo. Demon Ridge even moved its gate 100,000 miles west overnight. And you didn't care about any of it. You just took Chloe back to Riverwood. The yard was still there. The teapot was still there. The old map under the table leg was still there. You crouched, pulled it out for a look, and shoved it back. Better keep it as a table prop. Chloe couldn't help but laugh. That night, you sat in the yard brewing tea. You placed the bronze seal on the stone table and pushed it to her. There was something else in the tomb. It let someone live a very long time. The catch is, you'll have to look at my face every day. Pretty annoying. Chloe froze. She looked at the seal, her eyes slowly turning red. Over a century. She waited from age 10 till now. Finally, you said the word future to her for the first time. She didn't grab the seal. Instead, she looked at you and asked seriously, "Sir, does this count as taking me in?" Holding your teacup, you stayed silent for a long time. "It does." Chloe finally smiled and grasped the seal. The moonlight fell, making her eyes sparkle like stars. That night, Riverwood had no lightning tribulation. No strange noises. Just the old lamp in the yard burning all night. Years later, the spirit realm still talked about that night at the burial sea. About Ethan, who crushed a holy artifact and ripped out an immortal's heart barehanded. Some said he ascended to a higher realm. Some said he hid deep in a holy land. Others claimed he wasn't human, but a reincarnated ancient master. But no one guessed that the man who terrified the whole spirit realm was squatting by a stove in Riverwood, figuring out how to boil water faster with the Titan cauldron's handle. In the yard, Chloe dried herbs. Kids played at the corner. The words on the town steel had faded with time. Standing at the door, watching this mortal life, you felt it was perfect. You'd tear that net above apart eventually. But not today. Today, you're just a mayor, managing harvests, neighbors, and whose chicken ran into whose yard. As for invincibility, immortality, and higher secrets, they can wait. You have plenty of time anyway. And this time, you're finally not alone.